This anomalous object appears to be a largely unremarkable modern hardcover copy of a non-fiction book entitled A Chronicle of the Devas. The book features black binding and no dust cover, but the title is still clearly legible on the front of the book. The inside cover is signed by the supposed author, but the writing of said author's name is illegible, possibly due to the likely anomalous nature of the author itself. A copyright on the inner cover of the text also suggests it was written sometime during the 20th century. The second someone opens an authentic copy of A Chronicle of the Devas, they'll realize that the book contains a spatial anomaly. There are far more pages within the book than seems possible, given its modest size. All attempts to count the pages have failed, as this number is often subject to change. Readers have expressed feelings of paranoia, unease, and even physical nausea while reading from SCP-140, though some have speculated that this may be due to its graphic and disturbing content as much as any anomalous effect. Still, in spite of these feelings, readers express a fascination in the book and a desire to know and to read more. Studies have shown that 1 in 15 people handling the book have reported the metallic scent of dried blood wafting off of the pages. In terms of its actual content, the book is an exhaustive history of a now extinct culture known as the Devites, originating in what is now the cold and unforgiving landscape of south-central Siberia. Although the culture naturally developed over time, there were several factors that remained consistent throughout the lifespan of the Devite civilization, namely militarism, conquest, ancestor worship, urban centers ruling over large slave populations, gruesome human sacrifice, and the practice of apparently functional thaumaturgic rituals. Thaumaturgic meaning the practice of magic or wonder-making in English. The Foundation noted that a number of relics and creatures produced by the Devite culture that are described in the book would meet the anomalous criteria for containment today. Some of the entities mentioned in the book actually have been contained, such as SCP-392, a peach tree that grows living human heads and was described as having been created by the rituals of the Devites. But the anomalous nature of the book itself doesn't stop at it having an impossible number of pages. When the book is brought into contact with any fluids capable of creating text, even if, for example, this fluid is already dried up as the text of other books, SCP-140 will absorb the fluid, and the account of the Devite history inside the book will grow and alter. Foundation researchers have noted that this effect is particularly potent with spilled human blood. Both interestingly and disturbingly, the revisionist expansions to the Devite history are always in favor of the Devites. With each anomalous rewrite, the Devite culture will survive a little longer, it will grow more prosperous, it will worm its way out of wars and genocides that previously devastated it. New figures and events will enter the picture, and alterations to SCP-140 seem to have a tangible effect on our reality, as new Devite evidence and artifacts materialize that match the new accounts in the book. Even in dig sites which were once thought to be fully exhausted, new Devite-related materials will appear, each time getting slightly closer to recent history. The Foundation has learned a great deal about the Devites from the book. They seemed to be ruled by a theological aristocracy known as the Devas, a kind of religious ruling class that practiced both cannibalism and sorcery. The Foundation initially believed the roles of the Devas were passed down through their history, like popes or other religious figureheads in the modern day. But it seems more likely that the Devas were the same group of people, each living unnaturally long lives. Several researchers have theorized that the evolutionary path of the Deva were so divergent from Homo sapiens that they technically aren't even humans. To Foundation researchers, the accounts in the book are so detailed that it seems as though it had to have been written from direct experience rather than secondary research. It includes graphic descriptions of sacrificial rites, violent battles, daily life, and the life stories of various noteworthy individuals, including quotes and dates of birth. The unknown author of the text, dubbed SCP-140-A, is an active person of interest in the SCP-140 case and appears to be connected to a number of other deceased individuals. As of this recording, confirmed Devite ruins have been discovered in various locations across Siberia, northern Iran, and Mongolia. Artifacts and traces of intercultural conflict and contact have been discovered as far west as the Carpathian Mountains and as far east as northern Pakistan and China. The Devites really got around, and each time the book grows, they get around just a little bit further. Unsurprisingly, the book was discovered under grisly circumstances. The book was found in the university office of a historian, laying next to his dead body, which sat slumped over the desk. There were deep lacerations in his wrists, which was determined as the cause of death, but there was no blood located at the crime scene. The historian had left a faded, handwritten suicide note reading, "I have to know. I'm sorry." All witnesses were given Class A amnestics and false memories. There were further anomalous effects in the 15-meter radius of the book. Namely, all the books, except books on the history of the regions occupied by the Devites, were completely blank. It seemed SCP-140 had leached the text out of all of them. The remaining books were heavily rewritten to incorporate the history of the Davites. Even the historian's pen and some nearby printer ink cartridges were found completely emptied of their ink. Research into the identity of SCP-140-A has turned up relatively little information. We know that the creator of this book is a wealthy individual and self-published all existing copies from a private printing press. The copies discovered had already taken the ink from surrounding books. While the Foundation has destroyed as many copies as they could find, there is an unknown number still at large. There have been 2 recorded expansion events, even when the Foundation's contained copy hasn't been exposed to any fluids, making this an extremely high-risk anomaly. Foundation researchers have determined that all existing copies of the book present a huge danger to normalcy, the fate of the Foundation, and the fate of humanity itself. To put things into perspective, every expansion event has postponed the end of the Davite Society just a little longer, which means it's possible that someday in the future, enough expansion events could make it so the Davites never died out at all. Given that the Davites have supernatural powers and possess bloodthirsty, conquering, imperialist tendencies, if they popped back up in modern times, there would be grave consequences. If this were to happen, even the Foundation's most optimistic projections involve a CK-class restructuring event that irreparably alters the modern world. To learn more, the Foundation hacked into the personal computer of the historian who owned the copy of SCP-140 that later led to his death. In his journal, he says that when he first found the book, it stated that the Davite civilization was utterly destroyed by the forces of Chinese General Qin Kai. Subsequent expansion events have caused huge amounts of material to be added to the book. Now, the Davites survived that war and went on to regroup in Siberia and continued to thrive and grow. Presently, the empire is described as having finally been crushed by Genghis Khan during the early period of his conquests, although the fates of many important persons in several cities remain ambiguous. Worryingly, the groundwork has already been laid for another Davite resurgence, in a frightening display of just how close the Davites are getting to the modern era. The awakening of several anomalous Davite artifacts and creatures at a Foundation dig site caused a large number of personnel casualties. For all future investigations pertaining to SCP-140, teams of researchers must be accompanied by an armed mobile task force. Due to just how easy it is to cause an expansion event, which also constitutes a containment breach, and the fact that there are multiple copies still out there and unaccounted for, SCP-140 has earned a Keter containment classification. The Foundation has taken extensive precautions to prevent further containment breaches with SCP-140. No other printed media or fluids, especially human blood, are permitted to be within 15 meters of the book. Any expansion events, no matter how minor, must be immediately reported to the site director at Site-76, and any new original copies of SCP-140 discovered must be destroyed immediately. Only the original copy that was found is kept by the Foundation for research purposes. SCP-140 is contained at Site-76 in a sealed vault containing a single desk. Researchers are not permitted to view the original book, only special prepared copies, for fear of anomalous mimetic effects such as a growing obsession with the text. The book may never, ever be removed from the vault in which it is contained. If someone attempts to steal the book, the guards stationed at Site-76 have been authorized to use immediate and deadly force on the perpetrators. The risk of the alternative is just too great. Thanks for watching this file from the SCP Foundation. Be sure to subscribe and leave a comment with what entry you'd like to see next.